Your choice reveals a recurring pattern in you, a quiet movement of the heart that keeps returning. What you reach for first is rarely random. It can show the shape of an old need, a deep defense too. In a Jungian test, symbols do not speak to logic. They speak to the older self beneath your habits. Maybe you learned to stay composed, to please, to wait, or to shine only when it felt safe to do so. That is why your pull matters. It slips past the mask, past the story, and touches something in you that still wants to be seen. So do not think too much. Just choose the star that calls you from 1 to 5. Let first impression answer before it is edited by reason. Stay with your choice, even if it surprises you, because the soul often whispers before the mind begins to explain. By the end, I will connect your choice to one concrete action, something small and practical. So this is not just a feeling, but a step. Yet you will understand why when the full pattern is finally in front of you. But first pause the video and leave your name now in comments. It seems simple, but it gives this place to land. A choice becomes more alive when it is witnessed. That small act tells your mind that this moment matters. Maybe that is where healing quietly begins. Jung's test is not just about the star you picked. It is about the part of you that has waited for gentler truth. Stay here a little. The meaning may surprise you, but it may also feel strangely familiar, like remembering something you always knew, but hid so you could carry on today. And maybe this small moment is the first time you stop calling it confusion and simply name desire. Whatever star you choose, keep your answer close. Do not change it to fit what seems wiser or safer. The psyche often enters by the smallest door now. And sometimes a symbol can reveal the wound you protect, the gift you carry, and the life still in you. Stay until the end and let the meaning meet you where you are, not where fear says you belong. If you chose option 1, this usually happens when a part of you is tired of carrying life like a duty and wants to feel it as fire again. Stay with me, because this is important. This star does not usually call the person who feels nothing. It calls the person who feels a lot, but has learned to compress that feeling into usefulness, control, and endurance. In Jungian test language, this is often the image of a living force that has not disappeared, only been disciplined for too long. On the surface, you may look strong, practical, and even steady for everyone around you. Yet inside there can be a hunger for color, movement, choice, and a fuller kind of aliveness. Pay attention to this. Option 1 is rarely about simple ambition. It is more often about desire that had to become responsible before it could become free. In a simple Jung's test reading, this star carries both light and shadow. The light is courage, warmth, initiative, creative energy, the power to begin, the gift of bringing spark into places that feel dead. The shadow is hidden anger, impatience, silent resentment, and the strange habit of giving your vitality to what is necessary while postponing what is true. That is why this choice matters. A small symbol can reveal a large pattern. Your psyche may have learned long ago that wanting too much was risky, selfish, unsafe, or likely to end in disappointment. So the self adapted. The inner fire did not vanish. It learned to work, it learned to serve, it learned to survive. But now it wants to live. That is the deeper movement here. The archetype behind this choice is a simple one, almost primal, the warrior joined with the creator. One part of you protects, pushes, persists, and keeps going. Another part wants to make, express, enjoy, and choose without apology. When these two parts are joined, you become powerful. When they are split, you become effective on the outside and starved on the inside. You may know this in ordinary life more than you realize. For example, you wake up already thinking about what must be done. You answer messages, solve problems, meet expectations, say yes one more time, and keep your real desire for later. Later becomes tomorrow, then next month, then someday. Meanwhile, the thing that would make you feel most alive stays waiting at the edge of your life like a door you keep passing, but never opening. Maybe it is a project, a conversation, a trip, a decision, a boundary, or a dream you keep calling unrealistic, so you do not have to face how much it matters. Stay with this feeling. It is not weakness. It is not failure. It is a signal that your life force wants a more honest place in your daily life. Today, choose one thing you have been postponing because it feels deeply yours. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Begin it before this day ends. And do not ask whether it is perfect or important enough, because the real task is to prove to your nervous system that your desire is finally allowed to exist in the open. If you choose option 2, this message usually appears when a quiet part of you wants closeness, but another part still stands at the door with its hand on the lock. Stay with me, because this star often chooses people who feel deeply and then hide that depth behind calm wit or control. The blue light looks cool, clean, almost untouchable, and that is why it matters. In simple Jungian symbolism, blue can carry truth, distance, thought, and the longing to feel safe before feeling seen. It belongs to the inner guardian, the watcher, the one who reads the room before opening the heart. You may know this pattern well. You want warmth, but you move toward clarity. You want honesty, but you rehearse it until the moment passes. You want to be held, but you tell yourself you're fine. Pay attention to that tension. It is small on the surface, but it becomes large in a life. Desire says, go closer. Fear says, stay composed. The persona smiles, answers politely, and keeps the deeper need out of view. That is where the shadow enters. Not as evil, not as drama, but as the hidden habit of protecting tenderness by appearing untouched. Jung would say that what remains unspoken does not disappear. It returns as mood, delay, caution, and 1,000 careful adjustments. You can see it in ordinary scenes. A message stays unsent while you rewrite the first line 3 times in your head. Someone asks if you are upset, and you laugh softly, say you are just tired, then carry the ache alone into the evening. Or you sit across from someone you love. Hear a perfect chance to tell the truth. Feel your chest grow warm, and still choose the safer sentence. You mention the weather, the schedule, the traffic, anything but the thing that trembles just below your voice. Stay with me here, because this is the turn. Many people think option 2 means coldness, but that is not the real story. It is often the opposite. It can mean the heart is vivid, observant, sensitive, and full of longing, yet it has learned to move like winter water, clear, controlled, and hard to read until something finally breaks the surface. That little break is the mini-climax in this choice. It is the moment when the wish to connect becomes stronger than the fear of being misread, rejected, or left exposed. And that fear is old more often than you think. Maybe once you reached out and found silence. Maybe you showed need and felt shame. Maybe you asked for warmth and received advice, distance, or a look that made you pull your feelings back inside before they were fully born. So now the psyche tries to protect you by cooling the room before anyone can name the heat. This is the conflict. One part longs to step forward. Another part reaches for composure, interpretation, and delay. Neither part is wrong. The shadow here is not feeling too much. It is hiding feeling so well that even you begin to believe your own distance. But the gift of this star is beautiful. You notice subtleties. You read tone, timing, and atmosphere. You often know what is true before anyone says it plainly. When you feel safe, your words can calm a storm because they come from real perception, not noise. So do not call yourself cold too quickly. Pay attention to this instead. You may be protecting a very warm center with a very practiced winter face. Today, set a timer for 12 minutes, open your notes or a blank page, and write exactly 3 sentences you have been holding back from one person, then read them aloud, once in a steady voice, without editing, without softening, and without explaining them away. That small act will not solve everything, but it will crack the glass around your feeling and show your mind that truth can survive contact with another human being soon. It changes the pattern again. If you could choose 3, it is often because some quiet part of you is tired of being reliable and wants to feel meaningful again. That golden star usually pulls the people who know how to function, deliver, and keep promises, yet secretly ache for a life that feels more fully theirs. Stay with this for a moment, because option 3 appears when the old schema of worth says you must earn your place before you are allowed to enjoy it. In simple Jungian language, this is the meeting point of persona and hunger, the polished self that performs well and the deeper self that longs to matter. The light in this choice is focus, steadiness, leadership, and a quiet ability to carry weight without drama. The shadow is avoidance disguised as discipline, where you keep organizing your life so well that you never have to ask what would actually fulfill you. Pay attention here, because the conflict is subtle. You may look successful, calm, and capable, while inside you keep waiting for one clear permission to choose what is truly yours. Here's an unexpected twist. The need beneath option 3 is not applause. It is relief. Relief from always being the one who can handle it, decide it, fix it, and move on before anyone notices the cost. You can see this pattern at work when someone asks for one more task, and even though your schedule is already full, you say yes because your persona would rather be admired than uncertain. Or in love, you promise to talk about what matters, then fill the night with practical details, little updates, and safe jokes, because the real conversation might change your life. See what happens next. The strange thing is that this pattern can feel noble, and sometimes it is, but it also keeps you circling the same edge of your own life. You become excellent at preparing, revising, and refining, yet the deeper commitment waits for a cleaner mood, a perfect sign, a final certainty that never quite arrives. That is the schema again. If I do enough, if I stay useful, if I keep everything under control, then maybe I will earn the right to choose with my whole heart. But the right was always there. This star appears when the soul is asking for a decision that restores self-respect, not a huge dramatic leap, just one honest completion. Today, choose one promise you have already made to yourself. Write it in a single sentence. Set a timer for 15 minutes and complete the first visible part before the timer ends, whether that means sending the email, finishing the page, having the talk, or making the booking. That small proof matters, because each kept commitment teaches your nervous system that your life is not a waiting room for some future version of you. When you act, the fog breaks. When you finish, the persona relaxes. And when you finally do what you said you would do, even in a small way, something steady returns to your chest. You do not need a grand reinvention tonight. You need one decision that closes the gap between what you know and what you keep postponing. Maybe that is why this star feels bright instead of soft. It does not ask for comfort first, it asks for alignment. A person can spend years saying, "I am still thinking," when the truth is that the answer has already formed and only the courage to honor it is missing. That missing courage grows each time you finish what you started, because completion is one of the simplest ways to teach the shadow that action does not destroy you. For some people, the deepest fear is not failure, but exposure, because once you decide, you can no longer hide behind possibility. The moment you stop negotiating with yourself, your energy stops leaking into doubt and begins to return as strength. It asks whether your choice can now match the promise in your chest. If you chose 4, this usually happens when one part of you wants to let go and trust what it feels, while another part keeps tightening its grip because it is afraid that once something becomes real, it can also be lost. Stay with me here, because this choice carries a very specific tension. It is not the tension of someone who feels nothing. It is the tension of someone who feels a great deal and then tries to control the intensity so life cannot take too much away. That is why this star often pulls people who live close to longing. They sense beauty quickly, they imagine possibilities vividly, and they can feel the meaning inside a moment before anyone else names it. But the same sensitivity that gives them depth can also make them protect themselves by staying half in and half out. In simple Jungian terms, this is where shadow begins to move quietly under the surface. The conscious self says, "I am being careful, I am waiting, I am thinking clearly." But the shadow often carries a different truth. It may be carrying fear of change, fear of disappointment, fear that surrender will ask for a version of you that cannot go back. Pay attention to this, because the pattern is subtle. The limitation is not that you do not know what matters. The limitation is that you keep trying to approach what matters without risking the part of you that still wants guarantees. And life does not always offer guarantees. That is why this choice can feel beautiful and painful at the same time. It calls to the person who wants depth, but who also fears the cost of fully stepping into it. You probably do this more often than you tell yourself. You leave things emotionally open so you do not have to face a final answer. You keep the door ajar, not because you are confused, but because a closed door would force grief or commitment, and both feel dangerous in their own way. You may say you are still deciding, still reading the signs, still waiting for the right feeling, when deep down you already know what your heart is leaning toward. The truth is there, but control keeps editing it. A very ordinary example of this appears in daily life more often than people realize. You keep a message unsent because once it is sent, the relationship changes shape. You stay in a job that no longer fits because leaving would mean admitting that the old version of your life is over. You say maybe to plans you already know you do not want, or maybe to people you already know you do want, because maybe gives you shelter from the sharpness of a real yes or no, and yet that shelter slowly becomes a cage. That is the twist in option 4. What feels like protection can quietly become postponement. For Jung, the shadow is often not the opposite of who you are, but the hidden part of your own truth that you keep outside the persona because it would disrupt the role you have learned to play. The role may be composed, intuitive, adaptable, understanding. But beneath it there may be a self asking a much simpler question. What would happen if I stopped managing every possible loss and simply chose what feels true now? That is the emotional center of this star. Not drama, not fantasy. Truth under tension. The gift in you is real. You can perceive the emotional current beneath appearances. You can sense what is changing before others notice. You can hold tenderness and complexity in the same hand. But the shadow of that gift is hesitation that dresses itself as wisdom. You keep circling the moment of surrender because surrender feels too much like falling, even when it may actually be the first honest step into your own life. So listen closely to what this choice may be showing you. You are not weak because you fear losing what matters. You are human. You are not broken because change stirs anxiety in you. You are standing near something important. That is why it shakes you. And you repeat this pattern more than you comfortably admit. You soften your own certainty, delay your own answer, and call it complexity when sometimes it is simply fear wearing a gentle face. Today, choose one unresolved situation that has been draining your energy, set a timer for 15 minutes, and write one clear sentence that begins with either yes or no, then send it, say it, or act on it before the day ends. Because your next step is not to understand your truth more beautifully, but to stop abandoning it in the moment it asks to be lived. If you chose 5, this often appears when your life is already moving in one direction, but your habits are still loyal to an older map. If you chose 5, some part of you is no longer asking for a better way to cope. It is asking for a new way to live. Stay with that, because this star rarely calls the person who wants comfort more than truth. It points to transformation, to movement, to the moment when the old order inside you begins to feel too small for the self that is trying to emerge. Pay attention here because this choice does not usually come when everything feels settled. It comes when change has begun deep within us. In simple Jungian terms, this is the pressure of individuation, the quiet courage to stop living only as the version of you that kept the peace, kept the role, and kept the day running. Jung did not mean becoming perfect. He meant becoming more whole. And that means letting the strong parts and the hidden parts stand in the same room. The light in this choice is dynamism, renewal, and the nerve to begin before certainty arrives. The shadow is subtler. You may speak about freedom, but still delay the act that would make your freedom visible. One part is ready, and one part still bows to the old rules at home alone daily. You see this in ordinary life when a decision has been clear for weeks, but you keep calling it timing. You know the talk you need to have, yet you wash the dishes, answer the easy messages, and tell yourself you will do it when the mood is right. Or you say you want a new rhythm, but each morning repeats the old one because the old one is known. That is the established order at work, not outside you but inside your nerves, your routines, your private promises. And here is the subtle turning point. Your life may already be asking for a break in pattern, but it will not do it for you. It waits for your consent, not your wish anymore. So if this star found you, take that seriously. It may mean the self you have outgrown is still trying to manage the next chapter. You do not need louder motivation. You need a cleaner break between what is over and what must now begin. There is a firm truth in option 5. Courage is not noise, It is the moment you stop negotiating with the version of you that keeps postponing life. That is why individuation can be simple. It is not magic. It is the brave act of letting your values shape one real move. And once you move, something inside you stops begging for permission. That quiet click is the proof you were waiting for then. Today, choose one thing you have delayed because it would change the shape of your day and make it impossible to return to the old version unchanged. Book the visit, send the message, cancel the task that keeps stealing your evenings, remove the app that feeds the loop. Start the habit you have been treating like a draft. The step can be small, but it must leave evidence. This matters. A reversible promise only soothes you for an hour. An irreversible act teaches you who is in charge now. Once you cross that line, even in a small way, your mind receives proof that the change is real and the old order is broken for good now. And that is the deeper message of option 5. You are not waiting for a sign so much as you are waiting to trust the sign you have already been given. Something in you is ready to integrate the bold self and the careful self, not by forcing a perfect answer, but by making one honest move. That is integration in a form your body can believe. A person changes twice, first in private, then in practice. So do not wait for the whole staircase to appear. Choose the one step that closes the old exit and opens the new path. Once you do, the energy you kept spending on delay begins to return as presence, nerve, and direction. It stays here. What all 5 choices reveal is the same hidden movement in different forms: avoidance, repetition, fear, and the slow call toward integration. Each symbol seemed different, yet each one pointed to the place where the psyche protects itself by delaying truth, softening desire, or circling the same old lesson until it can finally be lived. In simple Jungian language, the shadow is often not some dark stranger inside you, but the part of your own life that waits outside the story you tell about yourself. One person hides by staying useful, another by staying composed, another by dreaming, another by waiting, and another by keeping change forever, one step away. That is why this feels personal, because beneath the surface details, every choice was a symbol of the same human effort: to avoid pain without losing the self, and to grow without feeling destroyed by growth. Jung would say that a symbol matters because it gathers feeling, memory, fear, hope, and instinct into one image, and that image reaches us faster than explanation. That is why a star, a flame, a color, or a shape can reveal more than a long confession, because the body often knows what the mind is still trying to postpone. So if you felt seen somewhere in this reading, that matters because recognition is already a kind of beginning. You have already done something important by staying long enough to notice your pattern instead of running from it again. Maybe before this you kept calling it stress, confusion, timing, mood, or bad luck, when in truth it was the same inner crossroads appearing in new clothes. Avoidance can look gentle, repetition can look normal, and hidden fear can look wise, but the result is often the same. Your energy stays trapped between what you know and what you allow. Integration begins when you stop asking which part of you is the problem and start asking what each part has been trying to protect. The fearful part was trying to keep you safe. The delaying part was trying to keep you from regret. The controlled part was trying to preserve dignity, and the dreaming part was trying to keep hope alive. Seen that way, your pattern is not proof that you are failing. It is proof that your inner life has been trying to survive with the tools it learned first. That realization can feel like relief, and relief matters because once the pattern has a name, it no longer has to rule you from the shadows. And with that relief comes a quiet sense of accomplishment, not because everything is solved, but because something true has finally been faced. This is where a new beginning becomes possible, not the dramatic kind that arrives with perfect certainty, but the honest kind that starts with one clear act. The real test begins after this video. Because insight is only the first threshold. The deeper change begins when you carry one truth from this moment into the next ordinary hour of your life. Today, choose one pattern you recognized in yourself, name it plainly, and interrupt it with one visible decision. Send the message, finish the task, cancel the excuse, or speak the needed truth. Make it small enough to do now, but real enough that your day cannot return to its previous shape. Because the nervous system learns through proof more than promise. When you do that, even quietly, you begin to feel a different kind of strength, the kind that does not come from control or delay, but from alignment between your inner knowing and your outer action. That is how repetition loosens, how avoidance weakens, how hidden fear becomes visible enough to be met, and how integration stops being an idea and starts becoming a lived rhythm. Then the next part of your life stops waiting and starts answering here. Before you go, stay with this feeling for one more breath, because what reached for you here was not random, and it was never small. A choice like this can seem simple, yet sometimes it lands on the exact place in you that has been waiting to be named. Maybe you felt recognized, maybe something in you went quiet, or maybe you finally saw the shape of a pattern you have been living for a long time. Do not rush away from that, because the heart often understands the truth before the mind is ready to hold it with courage. Please indicate your chosen number in the comments. Please type your name. That small act matters more than it seems, because when you place your choice into words, you stop letting it drift away like a passing mood and give it a place to live. Like this, if something in you feels more awake now, not as a habit, not as a reflex, but as a quiet way of saying that some hidden part of your story has just come closer to the light. Subscribe if you want to keep walking through these inner rooms with me, one honest step at a time. There is still more to uncover, and the next step may arrive with less noise and more truth than you expect, if you let yourself keep following what already opened here. Watch the next test on your screen right now. Do not wait until tomorrow, when the feeling fades and the old routine begins speaking louder again, because that is how insight turns into memory instead of movement. The people who change are not always the loudest ones, but the ones who answer the moment, while it is still warm and still telling the truth. You have already come this far, which means some part of you is ready to be more honest than before, and honesty is often the first form of healing. So leave a mark before you go, not for anyone else, but for the version of you who will come back later, and need to remember that this moment was real. What you write below may look small on the screen, but inside you it can become a quiet decision to stop standing at the edge of your own life. Let the comment be the first proof. Let the like be the second. Let the next step be the one that carries this feeling forward instead of leaving it behind. You may not see the whole path yet, but you can still answer the next true step, and that is enough for tonight. Leave your sign, keep your promise to yourself, and follow the open door while it is still in front of you. Come with the part of you that is ready now, and let the next test meet you before doubt returns. Stay with it gently for now, still,